Hello everyone and welcome to Piano Excellence for Life. In this mini lecture we will talk about importance of tonal work and work on the sound when you're working on a musical piece. When we work on musical composition, a lot of times we're so preoccupied with technical side of it. We want to learn the notes, we want to memorize the notes, we work on technical passages and so forth. And so we really not paying enough attention to the sound. But what's very important is to really keep in mind constantly that music is a tonal art and music is sound. And even though music does not produce a visual image or text or ideas, it can actually communicate as clearly, as intelligibly as all of those things do, right? Musical image, text, words, or ideas. And music can do so, communicate those things through the sound. So what is most important work of the pianist? That's right, the work on the sound. For so many people, actually it's a preference to work on the technical side of the musical composition, clearly because sometimes we simply don't know what to work on, right? How do you work on the sound? It is so much more complex and by far more difficult than working on the technical challenges. There are two most common mistakes that all of us pianists do from time to time. Mistake number one is underrating the sound, and mistake number two is overrating the sound. So what means underrating the sound is exactly what I mentioned earlier. When we preoccupied with technical side of the composition and we work on the text, we work on memorization, but we actually sort of ignore the sound work because again, it is a hard work. What means overrating the sound is when we actually over enjoying like each particular note, we over savoring the notes, we just want to lose ourselves in those colors, and maybe we have an amazing ideas and imaginative things in our head, but we forget about the phrase, we forget about the line, we forget about the form, right? And so actually the composition itself starts to suffer from overrating the sound. Now, let's think about what makes a good sound and what makes a good tone. So, a good sound and good tone is the one that can reflect your ideas and that can sort of translate your imagination, translate the feelings. And the good tone and sound is the one that has meaning. It is a meaningful one, right? It is trying to speak. But if it speaks to us, right, if music speaks to us with the sounds, the most important question is, what do we talk about? What is it speaking to us about? So understanding that, behind every work, and especially when we learn the work of great masters, there is an idea, right? There is certain artistic image. And if I ask myself relentlessly, constantly, what is this music about? What is this about, right? And then I start to have some answers, some ideas about it. Then this is the first step in understanding then what kind of tone do I create. And as I create the tone, right, I have to think about or feel those things that I, came up with. So this is number one, right? I need to know what my music is about. Another aspect of the tonal work, why it's so difficult, it's because it really depends of how well developed your ear is and how refined your ear is, right? Because sometimes you need to be able to hear the difference between good tone and bad tone, right? You need to be able to catch yourself in the moment when you play this, I don't know, maybe too straightforward or flat tone or no tone at all, or you need to be able to tell that you're playing with a good tone now, right? The rich and round tone, the tone that has length, right? That has a shape and that has a focus. So the ear here is your best friend, and it's so important to actually do some ear training. You can do it outside of the musical compositions that you're working on, but you can actually do it as you work on it, just by promising yourself to literally listen to every single note. Another important aspect of creating good tone is even more difficult to understand and especially to control, like when you work with someone and even when you work on your own. It's the spiritual qualities of the student, let's say. So how can we influence that, right? So because the more you imagine, the more you feel, the better tone you will have. And I actually heard this beautiful quote. I don't remember who was it by, but the quote said, be kind and your tone will be beautiful. How do we understand that, right? So a lot of times I feel like when we listen to someone play, it is so easy to actually tell what kind of spiritual qualities this person possesses. So again, just like the ear, the more refined and developed your ear is, the better tone you will have. Same goes to spiritual qualities. So again, it will be important as you work on certain compositions, maybe to read more or to expose yourselves to all things beautiful. All right, so because it will really help you to create something more than just sound. Okay, now let's summarize a little bit what's important when you work on the tone. So number one, you want to make sure you start with grasping the artistic image of the work that you're working on, because it will help you to have the understanding of what I'm trying to create in my sound, right? If I want to speak through my sound, then what do I speak about? So understanding this artistic imagery is something that you can do, the earlier the better. So maybe just listen to a recording of the work because you're probably just starting working on it and you simply can't play, right? But listen to a great recording. Maybe if somebody can demonstrate it for you, that's awesome. But really ask yourself what the music is about. Then second layer is when you start learning the text, you want to keep in mind and kind of keep track of how this artistic imagery is materializes in the actual combination of sounds, the harmonies, and so forth. What, how composer wrote it. So actually, that actually is portraying those things that you discovered, right, as the artistic image. Through what kind of elements? Why it sounds like it sounds, right? So when you work on the text and learn the notes, keep this in mind. And finally, this is the third layer, right, of the work, is to refining, right? Refining your technique, but so it's like, having a better and better pencil, right? Make it sharper, sharper, sharper. So you can actually play, draw much more clearly, and you're able to create this artistic image that you were thinking so hard about on the first stage. So now you are able to actually do it with your own fingers, right? So refining technique comes last, actually. We will continue to dive in deeper into understanding of what is sound work and how to work on sound, as well as how to understand and how to work on artistic image. We will have more lectures about it in the upcoming future. And for now, you have a homework to ask yourself in every piece that you're working on currently. Ask yourself this question: what is this music about? And keep asking until the answer has come.